Somewhere in a Swedish forest, there's a stretch of highway that looks completely ordinary. Painted lines, guardrails, a speed limit sign. But look closer. The lampposts fold down. The median strip lifts out. And that gas station up ahead? It isn't one. This is a war machine, hiding inside a country's own road system. And it belongs to a nation that never planned to win a war by being the strongest. Sweden planned to win by being impossible to find. To understand why Sweden built one of the strangest fighter jets on Earth, you have to understand the corner it was backed into. Sweden was neutral, not NATO, not the Warsaw Pact, just 8 million people, sitting right next door to the Soviet Union. If war came, there would be no cavalry, no Allied jets scrambling to help, no American carriers parked offshore, just Sweden, alone, with whatever it could build for itself. And Swedish planners had already watched exactly how a modern air force dies. In 1967, Israeli jets didn't win the Six-Day War in the sky. They won it on the ground, catching almost the entire Egyptian Air Force lined up on its runways and destroying it before a single plane could take off. Hundreds of aircraft, gone in hours. Sweden studied that war and asked one question that would define the next 50 years of its defense policy. What happens if someone does that to us? The answer was terrifying in its simplicity. Sweden had only a handful of major air bases, a handful of well-placed strikes, and the entire Swedish Air Force could be erased before it ever fired a shot. So Sweden made a decision no other Western Air Force was willing to make at this scale. They stopped trying to defend their air bases. They decided to disappear instead. It was called JAS 90, Sweden's dispersed basing system. And the idea was almost insultingly simple. Instead of a few major air bases, Sweden built a network of hundreds of small, hidden operating locations scattered across forests, farmland, and ordinary Swedish roads. Now imagine you're the enemy. You're a bomber pilot. Your orders are simple. Destroy Sweden's largest airbase before dawn. You do it. Perfectly. Runways cratered. Hangars burning. Mission complete. Except 20 minutes later, something starts appearing on radar that shouldn't exist. Fighter jets. Taking off from a highway. Then another. From a field you didn't even know was an airstrip. You didn't destroy the Swedish Air Force. You just destroyed an empty building. And now you're hunting an air force that has already disappeared into its own country. That was the entire idea behind JAS 90. Not to win the first strike. To make the first strike meaningless. Here's the part most people get wrong. Highway landings weren't some unique party trick unique to Sweden. Most Western fighters, the F-16, the F-15, even the Eurofighter, are physically capable of putting down on a straight stretch of road if they absolutely had to. That wasn't the impressive part. The impressive part was what happened in the 10 minutes after landing. A Gripen touches down on a road. Within minutes, it's refueled, rearmed, fresh missiles loaded, back in the sky before the enemy even knows where to look next. And here's the detail that should genuinely surprise you. This isn't done by elite aircraft engineers. It's done by one technician and 5 conscripts, teenagers doing mandatory military service, some of them fresh out of high school, trained to turn a fighter jet around faster than most air forces can turn around a truck. Compare that to a modern stealth fighter like the F-35, which needs climate-controlled hangars, specialized coatings, and highly trained crews just to stay combat-ready. The Gripen was built to be kept alive by teenagers on the side of a road, in the snow. That wasn't a limitation. That was the entire design philosophy. Here's what makes this story stranger still. Sweden didn't buy this jet from the United States, didn't buy it from a European consortium. They built it themselves, from scratch. In the late 1970s, Sweden needed to replace its aging Viggen and Draken fighters. Most countries in that position do the easy thing. They buy an American jet off the shelf. Sweden refused. A country of 8 million people, no aircraft carrier, no global air force, a fraction of the budget of its rivals. and they decided to design, engineer, and build a supersonic multi-role fighter entirely on their own. They called it Project JAS, a Swedish acronym for Fighter, Attack, and Reconnaissance. One aircraft, doing the job of three. They named it the Gripen. Gripen, the mythical creature already sitting on Saab's own company logo. Half lion, half eagle. Small, but built to guard something far larger than itself. It wasn't designed to dominate the skies through brute force. It was designed to survive, no matter what happened to everything around it. Today's Gripen E is faster and sharper than ever. Maersk 2, an AI-ready sensor suite, armed with the Meteor missile, one of the most feared air-to-air weapons in the world. It's not a stealth fighter. It doesn't try to vanish from radar the way the F-35 does. It hides a different way, by never being where the enemy expects it to be. And here's a number that explains why smaller air forces around the world keep choosing this jet over its far more famous rivals. The Gripen costs roughly a third as much to fly per hour as an F-35. For a country that can't afford a fleet of billion-dollar stealth fighters, that number isn't just a budget line. It's the difference between having an air force and not having one at all. Brazil flies it now. South Africa flies it. Hungary, the Czech Republic, Thailand. And in 2025, nearly 30 years after it first entered service, Thai Gripens flew their first real combat mission, striking targets in a border conflict. A jet designed for a war that never came finally proved itself in one that did. The Gripen was never built to be the biggest fighter jet on Earth, or the fastest, or the most feared. It was built around one brutally honest question: what do you design when you know, from day one, that you might have to fight completely alone? Sweden's answer wasn't a bigger jet. It was a smarter kind of disappearing act. Somewhere in a Swedish forest, that highway is still waiting. No jet on it, no sound, nothing to suggest it's anything but an ordinary road. That's exactly the point, because if it's ever needed again, Sweden already built a jet that knows precisely what to do.